Hello, everyone. I'm so happy that I get to be here on this stage talking about this very important topic, Broligarchy. I'm sure we've all heard of this word today, yesterday, the day before that. I know I have. Broligarchy is such a huge word, but I don't want to start with that. I'd rather start with a story that happened a couple weeks ago. I was invited to speak at MIT. And for all of you nerds out there, that's like the mecca for anybody who wants to be in the tech scene, start something in the tech scene, get to know the real geniuses behind some of the most hottest startups. And I was like, yeah, that's nice, let's go there. I would love to give a keynote at MIT. Until I was confronted with the borders. And for you to understand what kind of problems I had to face, is you have to understand that in my passport, you could see that I had traveled to Iraq a couple of years back, because that's where I was born. I visited my family. And as it turns out, Mr. Trump had decided a couple of years back that anybody who had traveled to Iraq before did not qualify for the normal ESTA program. So I had to apply for a real visa. It's like, oh my God, I'm not sure if this is going to work out. I only have 3 weeks to do this because I didn't have more time to prepare. And then I was like, let's just start the interview process. And it was a long interview process. And I did not expect to get asked this many personal questions along the way. They asked for my social media profiles, my Twitter account, my Instagram, my LinkedIn, what kind of books I had written. During the interview process, I would get asked what type of family I have in Iraq, what do they do, how do I earn money, what do I talk about. Well, I'm happy that I wasn't as vocal 2 months ago with what I'm currently talking about, Broligarchy. Yes, very critical. But it was still a problem for them because I was talking about tech. And as it turns out, tech was a real security issue. They made sure to let me know that this is not guaranteed. I was like, okay, let's see how this turns out. But during this process, during these 3 weeks where I waited, I did not say a word. I did not post anymore. I did not talk about any of my opinions. I even retracted some of my posts. I went back and I was like, I can't be this critical, just to not risk not going to MIT and talk about these things with students. You can't build the future if you're scared of the border. I learned that the hard way, because the visa got accepted. I got my visa. But at the border, I was told to wipe everything off my phone, to bring a burner phone with me, because even memes could get me into problems. And I'm sure we all have some questionable memes on our phones. And I was like, okay, I have to delete everything, basically. Again, social media apps, anything that's locally stored on my laptop, on my phone, pictures. I cannot risk that. And as I saw the other people next to me, my colleagues, left and right, they got asked at the border to wait just a little bit longer, just a couple more hours. They were questioned, their phones were taken. I was incredibly scared. It did work out for me, but I'm not sure if it would work out again after being on this stage talking this critically about the tech elite. For us to understand why tech is such a big problem, we have to understand that tech isn't neutral. Tech is power. And power always draws a line. It may be at the border. It may be at some universities. It may be about some topics where they're like, no, this is too risky. And you have to know, I have not always been this critical. Here, you can see me with Tim Draper. I was 18, working with a billionaire. And I was like, oh man, this is such a fancy world. I want to be a part of it. You have to know that Tim Draper was the first backer of Elon Musk. So he had his cars all over the office, all over his university campus. University is such a big word for something that is just basically a five-star hotel transferred into a space where he was inviting young people to join in and to start startups. And the way I got there was also funny too, because I reacted to a Facebook ad. And that's the first time I'm thankful for my algorithm. But a Facebook ad that said, hey, you can win a trip to Silicon Valley, win $10,000, and get to stay there for months and months and work with a billionaire. I'm like, wow, that sounds great. Let's click on it. I was 18, right? I just applied. The deadline was already 3 days late. I was like, what are the odds, right? They got back to me. Now you know the story. I did get accepted, and I was like, wait, why? Why did you accept me? They were like, you were the only one that applied. Like, fair enough. That means I was the best candidate. But yeah. You have to know that this got blown up in media. They were like, Jaff got a scholarship from Women Who Code for this very fancy thing, working with Tim Draper. And I got portrayed as this genius that I'm really not. And in various interviews, I got nicknamed Mrs. Code, even though on that very interview I said, I'm gonna stop studying computer science. It's not fun. But anyway, they decided to still portray me as that, and to this day, I'm still a horrible coder. I still do it because back then, I needed it for my projects. I needed it to understand finance, to do those projects that I'm in. It was like a means to an end. Nothing lifestyle. No gaming background here, no hoodie. I was not feeling all of that. But anyway, I did get to the epicenter of startups, and I got to know what this culture was all about. And Tim Draper made sure that I understood, in his terms, what it means to be an entrepreneur. We had 1 week during the program called Survival Week. And during that week, he was like, you cannot talk to anybody about what we're doing here. And if you ask anybody that got out of Draper, they will also not tell you what this Survival Week is about. They took our phones. They drove me to a remote place. And I'm not sure if you could guess what kind of exercise he made sure that I go through to really become an entrepreneur. Learning bow and arrow was part of the experience. Learning how to blow up cars was part of the experience. Next to people who served in Afghanistan, I really made sure that I know how to use an AK-47. And one thing that I could not get out of my mind was me being pressured to kill a chicken. So he told me that if I really want to get through with any plan that I have in life, I have to get my hands dirty. And so he said, grab that chicken, slice it open with your own hands, the neck, the blood. I will never forget that experience. And as I was there, traumatized because I was somewhere remote, and a billionaire made sure that I didn't know where I was. Not even my parents knew where I was. I was like, what is this? Am I being brainwashed? But when you're 18 and you have this huge wish of making the world a better place and get accepted in those circles, get that bag, be one of them, be one of those startup people, I have to say I fell for it and I'm not proud of it. But I want to make sure that you understand that this culture, this is what it looks like. This is what I now talk about. This is the length it gets to. And by the way, this billionaire, he's not a Republican. He's a Democrat. And as he was talking about the future, as he was talking about what's possible, he made the world feel like clay, like I could form anything. He used to walk around with a necktie and talking about, I want to split up California into 6 different states so Silicon Valley can stand on its own. It's like, okay, Delulu much? I don't know. Seems like you can make this work. So, in the years after, I came back to Germany, of course, and I was applauded for this whole experience. I had these specific covers on my bedroom wall. I was still living with my parents. I was like, wow, I want to be like Elizabeth Holmes. I mean, I don't. I do wear the turtleneck for different reasons. But I was like, I want to build a unicorn startup, and I want to be on the cover of Forbes and Fortune. And I was like studying these CEOs and making sure that I get to the same stations as them. So I did. I did build a startup, and I did go to all these accelerators, incubators, and I became a founder. And I also raised money with investors. I raised money for an AI startup that I worked on for 6 months with some colleagues of mine. And it was a service for knowledge workers, for people who write a lot of blog posts, articles, or work as a journalist and want to make sure that they get a podcast specifically on their own topics every morning. For 7 minutes, they would listen to, I don't know, some people talking about their specific niche. It's like, yeah, that's a good startup to have, because I would love to have a podcast like that every morning. Until I asked my AI, my algorithm, to make a podcast about Palestine. And I realized, the story changes every time I ask it. Every time I load up the question, hey, what happened there? What are the two sides? What's the conflict about? What's the war about? Every time it would change its opinion, and the podcast would pull out some very questionable opinions. It's like, I cannot go out with this. I cannot deploy this to other people who work with other journalists, who write for newspapers. I don't want to put this out. And I was talking to my investors. I was like, hey, I know we are this close to making it happen. And there were a couple of very, very famous investors on board. It's like, but this product is not ready, and I need more time. I need an ethical way of training. I don't want to pay people minimum wage. And I do want to make sure that the output we have is something that we can build on. And as I was there, I got laughed at. And they immediately sensed that this would not go any further. They said, Aya, you've got 10 years before anyone notices what's really wrong. just exit before then. Get this product out, get the money, get the bag, let us invest our millions. We will have a good round. You will get acquired probably. And then once the protesters are there and they are like, no, this is not a good product, we need to stop it, it will be years until then. So just do it. It's like, I cannot. I cannot, and I would prefer to stay on this side of the line. And then they said, you just don't have what it takes. I wonder, it's such a short sentence, but so poisonous to tell someone you don't have what it takes. I think I did have what it takes. I think I did know what it takes to not be morally corrupt. Needless to say, I had problems after that. I was bullied out of my startup. A white man took over who was ready to do what it takes. But if that's what it takes to succeed, what does success even mean? Oh, sorry. I had to think very hard, because usually I don't give any political talks. What I'm doing right now is something that's really new to me, and I didn't have the words to describe it back then. What really, really pissed me off, because the bubble I was in was the startup bubble. It was the bubble that applauded me for being at Tim Draper's Survival Week and for making sure that I had a tech startup and to make sure that I did revolutionize an industry, basically made sure people got fired and tech got replaced and all of that. Until I found out that there's a word for this mindset. And it's not Republican or Democrat. It's cyber-libertarianism. It's a big word, but it's a book I think that's worth reading. It talks about this mindset and what it is about and what makes it special. Because you may have heard of a book from Douglas Rushkoff that's currently going viral. He refers to this mindset as just the mindset. This is pretty new that we have a word for it now, that we can refer to this. And basically, I mean, of course, this doesn't do it any justice, but governments are evil, markets know best. Freedom means the absence of regulation, technology is neutral, and inequality? Well, guess what? Inequality will always be there, so let's stop working on it. Everybody on their own. It's just about meritocracy. I was like, oh yeah, this sounds familiar. I know this. We have heard of these things. We have heard of Elon Musk wanting to cut down on bureaucratic procedures, processes. I know what Trump means by freedom by now. It's not the same thing that I understand. So, no. It's not about individuals, it's not about different mindsets, it's not about either or. It's a different mindset. And with it, with these words, with these theories that I learned, I also learned that the people I once admired for everything that they had done, for example, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who I worked with, I was like, it's crumbling. It's all crumbling. This is all a show, and it's not inspiring me anymore. Because why would a single man have this much power to eradicate polio? I think he should have just paid taxes, right? So yeah, slowly but surely, I went to the other side. I was like, tax the rich. And my friends were like, Aya, who are you? We don't know you anymore. You're so radical. Like, this is a different word, right? For me, radical means something different as it means for you, but okay, alas, I'm radical. I lost a lot of friends. It wasn't easy, I have to say. I cried a lot. I had a lot of discussions, and at times I was like, do you even believe in human rights? But I guess I do have empathy with people that still think that this is okay, because alas, I was once part of the system too. And I believe somewhat we all still are, and we all will be. We are all complicit, because we all live in capitalism. We all have to pay for products. We all have to be part of some algorithm to get the news. So we are all part of it. Sam Altman warns, the fairness of any tax system is crucial for the survival of democracies. Sounds fishy, right? Because it isn't Sam Altman that said it. It was Thomas Piketty, right? That wouldn't come out of his mouth. These people are not interested in making sure we have a democratic system intact for us that serves us, the people. They're really not there for us. So I'm tired of making distinctions between good billionaires and bad billionaires. Being a billionaire is not good for democracy. That's it. As we saw this picture, I'm sure you all know this, at the inauguration of Donald Trump, I was like, I can't. These people, they think they have it all. They're so arrogant, and I know exactly what they think about me, what they think about you, what they think about all these people that demand these rights. But let me tell you, they are not gods. They are self-anointed kings, cloaked in disruption, a word they made sure you think is a good thing. Drunk on data, building empires not for freedom, but for control. And I am done bowing to them, so let's shit-talk them, shall we? Yes, this word, Broligarchy. Bro, tech, bro, obviously, oligarchy, a system that makes sure that only a few people have the power to lead our political discussions and our structures. And I know that once I read up on the theory these past years, one sentence stuck with me from Margaret Thatcher. She said, there's no such thing as society, only individuals. I was like, oh, I know a party in Germany that says that as well. Kind of yellowish, I'm not sure. I feel like this was the blueprint for them, right? Making sure that we feel isolated, that this culture is more individualistic than ever. Because if they convince us that we are alone, we won't organize, we won't resist, we will just consume instead of challenge. So how do we move from individual guilt to collective power? This is what I talk about in the book that I'm currently writing with the same title. And no, please, for the love of God, we do not need a new Elon Musk here in Europe to solve this crisis. You cannot solve this crisis with another tech bro from Europe going against the other tech bros. It really doesn't work that way. This is not the way that I intend to go or to lead with this discussion. What if we radically reimagined what companies looked like? I want to talk about a very special company called Mondragon in Spain. Mondragon is a cooperative, and it became the world's largest cooperative. It's industrial-sized. It has over 80,000 workers. But there's a new name for them. They're not just workers, they're worker owners. They follow a strict 6-to-1 pay ratio, which means that if you are on the lowest of the lowest in the hierarchy, your boss, the highest boss, can only make 6 times the pay that you are currently doing. They elect their managers. They share profits. And when one part of the network struggles, the others help out. So they also have banks in place to help each other out. They also have childcare. They have so many systems in place that serve the community. It's solidarity written into the company charter. And I believe that's the future. We need to make sure we have more cooperatives. Because what I hear day in and day out, when I say that we need more companies like this, I get told, that's a utopia, that's delusional, it will never work. But this company has existed since 1956. It does work, and there are so many more cooperatives. I also bring another example with me, because at the beginning of my story, I talked about MIT, right? So what did I learn there? I got to visit the MIT D Lab. They're developing technology, but not the normal way. They're listening, they're sharing, they're co-creating. And what I love about it is that they're not based on patents. So they're not focused on making money or making profit. They're not even focused on making products that are scalable. I was like, wow, this sounds illegal to me from the startup world. We're all so busy making something scalable. It's like, well, what are they doing? Well, they're sustainable, locally rooted solutions. And they only get to these solutions because people approach them from various countries, from various villages, saying, hey, I've got a problem. I heard you have geniuses working at MIT, engineers that could help us out. Could you maybe help us solve this problem?
But it actually
and this is one of the problems they solve.
It gets a lot heavier as you fill the whole thing up with water and clothing.
This is a washing machine that works without electricity. I love this idea because this is the guy who's riding the bike. He was just a visitor, and he was like, oh, can I bring this back, please, to my village, to my peeps? They would love this. And then immediately, the woman who showed him the product was like, of course, we don't have any patent. Go get it. Go explore. Go develop. The only thing is, we want to talk about it. We want to talk about it more. Make this accessible for everyone. So I haven't lost all of my hope. And I do hope that the engineers we have today don't just decide to go work for these tech companies and earn that bag. Because what I have learned is that actually at MIT itself, they have a bad rap. The D Lab has a bad rap. Why? Because after they were there, the engineers stopped applying to Google. They stopped applying to Apple. They were like, this is so much more fun. This gives me meaning. I want to be part of this. And guess what? They also made sure it does make money. So there are ways. It works. It's a myth. If I leave you with anything, it's this sentence. Stop turning founders into kings. This is the problem that started it all. Stop giving one founder so much power. Stop thinking that this is normal. Stop thinking that this is the blueprint of how to make money, of how to turn a buck. It's not. Stop turning them into kings. Because if we still do that, we have more Broligarchs coming our way. This is my book. It's going to come out end of October. I will have tons and tons of more examples of these cooperatives, of the narrative that I'm trying to dissect, of these hopeful stories, of these things that we can do without waiting for politics. We can already do them today. And I'm speaking to all of you who want to found a startup, who want to get into the startup scene. Please, thinking about looking into these things. Thank you so much.